got a paper with him in case I'm boring.
All true.
He's going to need that.
Yeah.
Now, as a good Scotsman, I feel very honoured to sat next to someone who's done so much Scottish television work. You know, there's so many different places I could start this interview. And we may never get into Doctor Who.
Well, why don't we go to Doctor Who?
So I'm going to do Doctor Who first. That's what I'm going to do. Was Doctor Who a programme you watched as a boy? Or before being in it?
Yes, I watched it when I was a kid, but I kind of lost touch with it as I grew up. So when I got the chance to appear in it, I didn't really know all that much about it. It was my son that kept me up to speed and what was happening and all that. So.
Did you have an era back in the day that was when you watched it?
Well, I actually, I'll sound really ancient when I tell you this, but I can actually remember the very first episode because it was meant to go out on the Friday and Kennedy got assassinated and it went out on Saturday, which was my birthday, 25th November 1963 when I was 7.
I didn't know that was what your birthday was.
There you go. So
yes, you can tell I did my research, can't you? Didn't you?
yeah.
So you remember it starting?
I remember it starting. My favourite when I was a little boy was Patrick Troughton. He was my favourite. That's the one I liked. And then I kind of, when it hit Tom Baker, I kind of lost away a wee bit, and that was it.
So of an age to move on to.
Yeah.
Like we all did. No, we didn't do. So, how did you get cast in Doctor Who? Did they come to you?
What happened was that the programme was cast by a guy called Andy Pryor, and Andy Pryor phoned my agent up and said, look, we wondered if Johnathan would be interested in taping for this. We'd like to tape for it. And that happened Thursday night, got it sent, did it on a Friday, sent it in, and I was cast on a Monday. It was as quick as that. And I really didn't know much about it. I got my son to help with the self-tape, and he said, what is it you're doing? What part are you playing? I said, it's Commander of the Centaurans. And he was like, the Centaurans? So he let me know that it was quite a big thing. So, yeah.
So
it happened very quick.
If you got cast that quickly,
yeah.
Was there then a week before filming, or were you filming quite quickly as well?
I think about a month later, I had to go down in lockdown to Cardiff and get all the prosthetics done, and that's when it was complete lockdown there. And I had to drive, because of lockdown, I had to drive down for all fittings, etc. And I had a special letter in case I get stopped with the police to say you got to let him through because he's working in Doctor Who. And yeah, quite impressive. I think I've still kept it in case I get stopped in the future. But yeah, so and I filmed it in 2 or 3 blocks because initially Andy had said to my agent that initially it was 2. I did 4 episodes out of the 6 in the Flux, but originally it was just 2, and he said he might be going back. And then when I finished the block of the first 2, the director Jamie Stone said to me, it's the best thing a director's ever said to me in my whole career. He said, listen, he said, great working with you. He said, I think you may be coming back because they've put your spaceship in storage. So that's how I knew I was going back. So yeah.
So you mentioned prosthetics. Did you know straight away it was going to be that kind of part?
Yeah, yeah.
Was that from your son telling you what that was?
Well, no, I think Andy, my agent had mentioned it, but yeah, I knew from my son was telling me as well. But I'd had prosthetics in a previous job before, so I wasn't fazed by that. I mean, some people can feel very uncomfortable with it because it can be quite claustrophobic, but if it's done properly, and it was in Doctor Who, it was absolutely fine. You know, in fact, it really helps you, you know, do the part. Yeah.
What about the teeth though?
Well, the teeth, that was the thing I was actually most concerned about, because I've had teeth fitted before, and it's a bit, you know, it's not, they don't always work the way you want. You can develop a lisp or something like that because they don't quite fit properly. But the guy arrived, he did the cast for my teeth, and the next time I tried them on, I was actually about to film, and they were perfect. They were absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that was all right.
And you had the brilliant Dan Starkey as the other.
Yeah, Dan. I didn't have I think my first scene was with Dan, and I killed him. So that was
my job now.
So I didn't. No, I didn't do it that way. But we only had about 2 or 3 scenes together. But he was great. He was a big help. He sort of filled me in different things that you do and say and stuff like that. And but no, he's a nice guy.
I've been to Dan since Flux as well.
Oh, have you? Right.
He was saying he had done it before.
Yeah.
He says, but they changed the design. He said, so much as he could say to you, well, you don't hear very well, and he could give you little things that he'd already picked up. He said, it was then a completely different fitting for him anyway. So
Yeah.
he was having to learn kind of anew as well.
How to use it as well. Well, I'd worked with Ray Holman, who's the designer. Ray used to work up in Glasgow for many years. So we had done a number of projects together. And Ray contacted me and said, look, he said, I'm going to take it back to the original design of it. Was that the 70s? Would that be right? Yeah. So, so I kind of knew that was going to be the sort of the kind of look. But no, everything fits great.
There's wonderful. I've just spied there's one over there on the table.
Oh yeah. That isn't mine. No.
I think that's a 70s style.
Is that 70s still? Yeah.
But for the clone species, they managed to look differently at the time that we've done it anyway. So.
Yeah. But no, but ours, well, Dan had his style and I had mine. Yeah. So.
Was it nice, because you've done an awful lot of comedy stuff, was it nice to do something that was so different to the kind of thing you're sort of most known for? Yeah,
well it always is. I mean, one of the things I enjoy about the job is trying to keep a certain amount of variety in it. So, for instance, I mean, I always try and do a play every year in the theatre and stuff like that, just to keep you up to speed and all like that. But to do something in that scale and that, and try something different, it was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And one of your sometimes parts, you're on a horse saying,
Yeah.
I took this job because I wanted to ride a horse.
Yeah.
You didn't take the job because you wanted to ride a horse.
No, but I knew that horse riding was going to be involved, and he said it's not a deal breaker, but can he ride a horse? And I just say, yeah, he can. So, and I brushed up before I went down to Wales to work on it. But then the day came when I had to get in this thing, and I turned up, and it was like the biggest horse in Wales. I mean, I had to get a ladder to get up in it. And of course, with all the armour and everything like that, you don't have much flexibility. So if the thing had broken into a canter, I mean, you wouldn't have seen me for days. And so I remember there's a photograph of me on the horse surrounded by Santarns. And they're all photoshopped on because when they took the shot, the guy was going to let the lead or whatever you call it go, and I said, you keep holding on to that, don't you move. So he's actually there, but he was airbrushed out. But yeah, that's it.
And Jodie, obviously, was the doctor at the time, so how did you enjoy working with your doctor?
She was fantastic. She was absolutely brilliant. And she did everything she could to welcome you into the sort of the Doctor Who family. And because when you do a job like that, it's really important that you hit the ground running. And we had big scenes to do up in Merthyr Tydfil. The two of us shouting at each other over fields before they filled them in with 50,000 warriors. And she was a great laugh. She was just brilliant fun, and I loved working with her. She was great. I'm so pleased that she was my doctor. Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And obviously John Bishop was joining in this one as well.
Yeah, well, I'd actually filmed a few scenes, and I didn't know who this, all it was in the call sheet was JB. It was top secret at the time. And so I turned up in the tent one day up in Merthyr Tydfil, and here's John Bishop sitting there, and I went, oh God, that's the top secret. But it was about a week later, they revealed who it was. I think mainly because people walk their dogs in Merthyr Tydfil, the bit that we filmed at. So they knew the St Arms were coming back, and somebody must have spotted John Bishop. So the press office decided to release it, yeah.
Have you worked with any other doctors elsewhere, like, not in Doctor Who? So?
Well, I have, yeah, because Peter Capaldi's a friend of mine. So when he got the gig, I texted him to congratulate him, but I've known Peter for years. I knew Peter when he worked at the BBC, when he was a graphic artist, and he's a hugely talented artist as well as an actor. But and we worked on Local Hero together. That was his first job, and so yeah, I worked with Peter, and I don't think I've worked with anybody else. No.
We'll do that, and you can come back next year and tell us about it.
Right. Okay, I'll try and do that.
Get some more doctors picked off, please.
Okay, I'll try and do my best.
I have to talk to you about Two Doors Down.
Right, okay. Well, the people here know about Two Doors Down.
Well, I'm gonna. Who watches Two Doors Down? Do we have? Well, I have a few.
2 or 3 or 4.
We're going to talk about this, and afterwards you can go, because it's all on the iPlayer, you can go home and do your homework. Okay? There's 2 Scotsmen on stage, we're going to talk about that bit.
So apologies if you don't know anything about it.
What a cast. Scottish legends everywhere you look. You, Doon McKeegan, Elaine C. Smith, Alex Norton.
Legends in their own lunchtime. Yeah.
And Arabella, people don't, I mean, I know she wasn't born in Scotland, but she says she's Scottish.
She's got some kind of Scottish heritage.
I think her parents both are.
Maybe they are.
She was born in America though, but they have.
I think her father certainly was, yeah.
And you wouldn't know that she doesn't have that accent in Wales.
Doon as well, Doon's Scottish accent's perfect, so yeah.
She's a Fifer like me, but I know she's doing a different accent in Two Doors Down. So, you've got, I think, I mean everybody in it's brilliant, but I think Alex and Arabella have to be so great as the grounded couple to allow everybody else to come in and be so horrible.
Well, to bounce off them and stuff like that, yeah.
They have to be so good.
They're the sort of core to it, yeah, that's right.
How would you describe Colin, your character?
Oh God, he's I don't know actually. He's like some overgrown schoolboy who is so boastful and says the most inappropriate things, but does it with a certain amount of innocence as well. So hopefully I'm nothing like him. But yeah.
I'd say he's a wee half.
Well, okay. I'll settle for that.
Not you. Don't get.
No, that's okay.
You're nothing. I mean, it's very, very funny, but it's painful as well. I mean, I shout at the TV sometimes, saying, just tell them to.
Really?
Off,
Okay.
you know, just when they're taking advantage. So. And then gets me riled in a just.
Hopefully in a good.
In a good way, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But when your characters are saying such terrible things to each other, what's it like to film? Do you ever feel kind of like, oh, I'm sorry about that afterwards?
No, not at all. No, the guys that write it, Simon Carlyle and Gregor Sharp, spend so much time writing and rewriting and boring it down. The script's in really good shape, and you just play it as you would any script, and you know, you're in the zone, and yeah, you just go with it. Yeah, so.
They do say some horrible things to each other.
Yeah, they kind of do, but it's I mean, my character does, but it does it with, you know, a certain amount of innocence as well. He doesn't think he's been rude, so, yeah.
I think that's the brilliance in the writing of, particularly Colin says these things, and he's got no idea that might actually hurt somebody.
Yeah. But you get people like that, so,
absolutely.
yeah.
Now, I've sat on this very stage with Colin's dad, the brilliant Maurice Reeves.
Ah,
He
Morris.
came to one of to a Whooverville once because he had done Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a nice casting coup to get Maurice Reeves in to play your dad.
Yeah, it was. He was great. Well, I'd known Morris beforehand anyway, and so to work with him was great. And sadly, he passed away a few years ago now. But he was a lovely chap, and great to work with, and very supportive. Came to see me in theatre stuff and all that. Yeah, a really nice man.
Yeah, it's nice to get. Next year, I hear Kathy has gone. Colin does not have his wife anymore. Bruno Keegan has left the show. Now, obviously you can't tell us what's coming, but can you tell us about what we can expect from Colin now that his wife has gone?
I really can't, because firstly we just this is a job that I finished filming on at 2:30 this morning in Dumbarton, and then to drive down here. So we haven't actually been briefed by the press office, but I can't really tell you anything about it as of now. But yeah, I don't think you'll be disappointed, so hopefully you'll get a chance to tune in. This new series will go out before Christmas.
Right.
So, yes.
Quickly after the last one.
Yeah.
But then I suppose you had so many delays with COVID being able to get together.
We did, yeah. We did a couple of breakdowns with that.
And the pregnancy.
And a pregnancy. One of the characters was pregnant, and we broke for COVID. And when we came back, we only had a week to get all our stuff done. And the two of us were standing at the chalk wagon waiting for our lunch, and I told her a joke, and the waters broke. And so we were delayed another 3 hours. It's a nightmare. Anyway, we came back in February to film it.
So that last season was shown in halves.
She was.
And then the season split because you had to stop work again.
That's right, yeah.
So we've just caught up now, but there's another season coming towards the end of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Watch it. It's brilliant. And I'm not just saying that because he's sat there. and because you've just finished filming, you're actually sitting there looking like Colin as well.
Well, there's a goatee, yes.
Yeah,
So I didn't have the goatee when I played Skak. So,
Was acting always what you wanted to do, or did you have a different ambition as a young one?
No, I didn't initially plan to be an actor, but I did when I was about 10. I went to the junior course at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, and as a result, I used to do a lot of stuff when I was a kid, like Dr. Finney's Casebook and Sutherland's Law, stuff like that. Worked with Alan Park in a commercial, things like that. But I didn't intend to go into it as a profession. And in fact, I was going to go into advertising as a copywriter. And when I was doing the course to prepare for that, I got asked by the BBC to do another play. And I ended up doing it. And following that, I decided I wanted to audition for drama college, got in, and that's it. Yeah. That's how it all started.
Going from there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that Sutherland's Law and sort of an episode here and an episode there of things.
No, but the first 2-3 years when I was at secondary school, I wasn't there all that much. I was away doing stuff, because the other thing the BBC Scotland had was a very busy schools department, with a series called Around Scotland, which charted Scotland's history. So which employed a lot of Scottish actors like Roddy McMillan, Johnny Grieve, people like that, and so I did quite a lot when I was younger. So it wasn't just the subway bits and bobs.
But I sort of guessing in different shows,
Yeah, appearing in.
So when did you feel that this is working? I finished this job. I've got another one lined up. It was the point that you suddenly thought, this is sustainable. This is working for me.
No, not really. No, not at that age. No, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. So, because you're talking about when I was about 13, 14, 15. So, no, I hadn't really sort of. I didn't view it like that at that point.
So after doing the play, then the BBC play, and deciding this is now what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What sort of things came along immediately after that.
Well, what happened was I did 3 years, I studied at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama for 3 years, and when I left, the situation then was you had to have an equity card to work, but you couldn't work without an equity card. And theatre companies were given 2 union cards to hand out to people that they thought were, you know, might make a go of it. So I got mine from the Glasgow Citizens. So I started working there, and from there went into more theatre. I used to get television work as well, and then after about 3-4 years I became part of the comedy unit at BBC Scotland.
So that's Colin Gilbert?
Colin Gilbert and Naked Video and Naked Radio, and then into Rapsy Nesbitt and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's it.
So then it's a snowball.
Yeah.
And that. Would anybody like to stick their hand up and ask them straight away?
What was it like to work with Bill Forsyth on the local hero?
It was great. It was brilliant. I haven't seen him for a few years. I bumped into him in Byers Road, and he hadn't changed a bit. But he was lovely to work with. He was very, very sort of quiet, but don't let that fool you. He always get his own way, you know. And he was great, and you know. And I've got a bit in the film. I don't know if you remember a local hero, but Peter Rieger and the Black Minister are walking along the beach, and the minister says, "You've got to watch yourself around here because news travels fast." And then it cuts to me inside the church, and I say, "The minister says news travels fast, right?" Well, he just made that up on the spot. He said, "John, come in." He said, because they were all shot, it was all shot out of sequence. He said, "Just you go up to the door there and just turn around and say, 'The minister says news travels fast.'" I mean, you sure? He said, "Yeah, I'll work out." So I did that. So little things like that. He was great. The only time we caught him out was, you know, the bit when Peter Rieger asked, "Whose is the baby?" Well, that was it. That was added in because we did that in the long shot. And he said, "What are you guys doing?" And we told him. He said, "Well, shoot that." And but it was great to work. Really.
He was in Animal House, which is one of my favourites. Animal House? He was in Animal House, which is one of my favourite ones.
Sorry, what's that, sorry?
Animal House?
Oh, Peter Rieger?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and but we get to meet Burt Lancaster.
I didn't meet Burt Lancaster. I bumped into him. We were circling the helicopter one day, and in true Panto fashion, bumped into each other back to back, and then sort of jumped apart, and that was it. But nobody really got to speak to Burt. But he was quite an impressive figure. When he arrived in this field, in this massive Daimler, they laid a track, and all these guys that were working big movies just stopped what they're doing, and the door opened, and he got out, and he just seemed to get taller and taller. He's a massive man, and but no, nobody really sort of mixed with him. I think everybody was too intimidated. But Fulton Mackay, I'd done a play with Fulton Mackay a few months before. I used to help Fulton with his lines at night when we stayed in Glenfinnan. And so Fulton had a big scene with him, which he loved doing. But I said, "What was it like?" He said, one of the things he said to Fulton was, "And what is it you do?" And Fulton's like, "I'm an actor," you know. But he was quite a character. But I always remember all the experienced hands that were there were really quite in awe of him, you know. Yeah.
Fulton Mackay did one of John Pertwee's first, the Doctor Who's, and he's only in like 3 episodes. It's a long story, it's 7 parts, 7 weeks.
Oh, right, okay.
And he's in like 3 of them. But he feels like, and it's only Doctor Who editor, but because it's Fulton Mackay, because of how much he puts into it, and
yeah,
you feel like, oh yeah, he did a Doctor Who, then you actually think, oh yeah, but within 3 weeks he'd been killed off, and he wasn't it? But one of the main things you remember about this long story is Fulton Mackay, because that's how good he was.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I worked with him one of my early jobs in theatre, and he was absolutely brilliant. He was great with me. I think he could be quite a tough customer he wasn't sure of you, but he and another actor sort of took me under their wing, and they were brilliant with me. I learned so much from working with these guys. Yeah.
And
Do you know if you ever return to Doctor Who?
I don't know. I believe that Russell T Davies is a big fan of Two Doors Down. He keeps on putting stuff about it on Instagram, and it was David Bickerstaff said, well, just so you know, Colin is actually a Santaran, and they like that. So I would love to go back. So you never know.
you might get to show the face this time. You might get to be.
No, I'd quite happy to see
No,
the face
good.
cover up. Yeah.
And of course, we've got another Scottish doctor coming.
Well, actually, do you want a bit of useless information?
Yes, always.
Shooty, is that how you pronounce it? Shooty, yeah. The very first television job he did was in a programme that Brian Cox and I did a number of years ago called Bob Servant. And we used to film it up in Dundee. And at that time, Shooty was working at Dundee Rep. And he was just a young actor. And his first television job was in Bob Servant. Because when he was announced as a doctor, the press phoned me up and said, do you realise you served Shooty a hamburger in Bob Servant? I said, did I? And of course it all came back to me. So I've actually got the photograph on my phone. But yeah, so yeah, another such.
So that's the fourth Scottish doctor.
Fourth Scottish doctor.
We could have a fifth.
Well,
Anybody else wanting to? Jenny?
Do you have a favourite memory of working on one of the Santarans? Anything that brings to mind a favourite memory?
my favourite memory was the scene that Jodie and I did in I think it's the Merthyr National Park, but we were quite a distance apart, just stood in rocks, shouting at each other. And it was really difficult because there was other dialogue that she had with other actors beside her, but because of my costume, I couldn't hear. So when she was still talking, I had to sort of glance over at the assistant director going like that. So it was great fun doing it, and it was a real laugh. So that was one of my standout memories, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Actually, did you have much to do with Amanda Gill? Did you have many scenes?
No.
I was then, and of course, because you're so talented, I was then, well, did Dan do that? Did you do it? I was
No, not Amanda, no, I something to do with John Bishop and Caravanista, yeah, and yeah, but that was about it. Yeah. And Craig Parkinson when I came back, yeah, who was great, he was a lovely guy, really good.
Lots of villains. So because it's a ongoing story, they can keep throwing things into the...
Yeah, it's the next, yeah.
If anybody has anything else, just whilst we're going, just stick your hand up and we'll spot you doing it. So, only an excuse I want to ask you that.
Well, I don't think anybody here will know about that, and are you sure you want to do that?
It's because of, it's specific about impressions of, it didn't start like that, did it? But you've ended up, you did this comedy show where you sort of, you became doing impressions of Scottish football people.
It kind of evolved into that, you're right. Initially it didn't start out like that, but yeah, we tried to incorporate that into it, yeah.
So what I actually wanted to ask, not specifically about the show, was have you ever met anybody that you've done impressions of on TV, and how have you been about it?
Well, this is a programme that I used to do in Scotland, which impersonated Scottish football figures and also other people that were featured in the Scottish football scene. So it was like Sir Graham Souness and Ken Dalglish and Dennis Law, people like that. So I've met them all, and they love it. Yeah, in fact, when we wrapped up the programme, they all contributed, they all talked about it, they were all interviewed about it. So they're okay about it. Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever had anybody doing your impression of them back at you?
I can't really remember if they have, but maybe they have. I haven't missed it.
So when you look back on the things you've done, what to you are the favourite jobs that you go, that's something I'm very proud of, that's a favourite thing I've done?
Well, I'm proud of being part of Doctor Who, I must say. I never thought for a second about, being involved in such an iconic programme. So I love doing that. I love doing Two Doors Down. And but one of my favourites was Bob Servant. Everyone involved in that program, we still all keep in touch. And you know, Neil and I saw Brian, Neil Forsyth who wrote it. We saw Brian fairly recently, so that was a really good job to do. And he was wonderful to work with. He was great. Very good at calming you right from the beginning. Yeah.
And of having done Doctor Who, and saying becoming part of such an ongoing thing, events like these, have you done anything like this before?
Well, I have. I've done a few of them since I appeared in the programme. And for instance, in February I was in LA for the Gallifrey convention, which was quite something. It went over 3 days, so no, I enjoy doing them. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you just now. So yeah.
Again, having had all this, because you talked about having teeth, and you said that was no hassle, climbing on hooks, well, it's all the things that people moan about, and you don't seem to have minded any of them. Was there anything that made you feel that?
Well, no, because the thing that they're really good at is, you know, they appreciate that you're going to be spending so many hours in this get-up. They're going to make it as comfortable as possible, and they're going to make it so that it's part of you to do the part and play it the way you want to play it, and that's what they do. That's why they're the sort of best at what they do. So there was nothing that was really awkward about it at all. It all helped the end result, if you like, you know. So no, it was great.
I'm just checking, does anybody have anything they want? So you've just finished work, 2 days down, today basically. It was,
Yeah.
It was at 2:30 in the morning. So do you have anything lined up?
I've got a couple of things lined up which I'll do later on in the year, but I'm going to go away for a few days break, and that's what I'm focusing on just now.
I mean, a couple of jobs lined up after that.
But it's quite
I don't mean you've got things
things
on the
like that.
horizon.
Yes.
Actually, that reminds me, I watched a YouTube interview with you.
All right.
And the guy had been interviewing in turn the cast of 2 Doors Down.
Right, yeah.
And he asked you, have you got, and so lockdown's going on and all, have you got anything lined up? And you said, oh, well, I'm doing something, but I'm not allowed to say anything about it. And I instantly went, oh, that probably was Doctor Who.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're told very clearly you cannot tell anybody about it. So I went over a year and I couldn't say a thing. It was only my wife, my son, and my agent knew, and that was it. I couldn't tell anybody else. It was Ray home and said, do not tell anybody you're doing that. So that was the thing.
No, I was
Yeah.
I think we've reached that moment, haven't we?
I think
It's
so.
time. So please, would you thank Johnathan Watson? It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for that. He didn't need it.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Thanks to Robert.